So going into the last fight with Zebaztian, I knew that post-fight there was going to be a bit of a lull in action just due to some training commitments I had for the United States Air Force. And I knew there'd be about 8 months to a year. And then obviously the worldwide pandemic happened. I've actually been looking to fight since like April, but obviously with travel restrictions, and I know ONE's doing the best they can. But yeah, I've been actually wanting to fight since the beginning of the year. It just, everybody's been on lockdown, so it's been impossible to travel overseas. So going into that fight, I fought one way for, I think that was my 18th fight if you count amateur. So I went in one way. It was my first ever 5-round fight. Everybody prior to that had always kind of wilted under my pressure. The things that I do well at are pressure. I tend to just kind of overpower, my answer to everything is horsepower at the time. Well, that doesn't really work in a 5-round fight. So I'd say the biggest lesson that I learned is more about energy management. And even though, I got knocked down in the end, I actually have more confidence in my striking now because he is a world-class striker, and I was able to win a lot of those exchanges just with speed. So I think the way I approached the fight, as far as, takedown attempts and things like that, all the energy burned, that was the biggest takeaway, because he's a world-class competitor, and, he was the first, he went to deep water and he could swim. So, and that's something I wanted to test. So, but neither one of us folded, I got caught, but, that's the fight game. So, you're putting it on the line for the millions of people, and that's just what happens. So the biggest lesson would be energy management and how to just be a little bit more of a tactician over 5 rounds. I'll start with the person, because skills, he puts it, he's been fighting for one for quite a while. So everybody knows the skill set, and, I'll talk about that here in a second. But first and foremost, just if you don't know him, like on a personal level, obviously I don't hang out with him every day, but in every interaction I've ever seen with him, interviews or, just talking with, he is a man of high integrity and character. Matter of fact, one of my favorite stories about him is the first time I met him, actually, he was wearing one of the shirts that ONE gives out to some of its fighters. And I was commenting how I really liked it, and he literally just took the shirt off his back and then gave it to me because I said I liked it. Never met him before, and he just, because he's that's the type of person he is. So when I found out that I was going to be competing against him, I actually sent him a message, and him and I chatted about how we're going to put on a show for the fans. There's obviously our friendship remains, but for 15 minutes, that's going to set that aside, and we're both going to put on a show because the fans are what matter. As far as the skill set, that guy's got a motor that doesn't stop. He's not afraid to engage anywhere, whether it be on the feet or the ground. And if I am fortunate enough to take him down, I know that he's going to do everything in his power to get up. He's not happy to stay on his back, and take a beating. So I know that for this fight, I'm going to have to try to put him away for 15 minutes because if I don't, then he's going to return the favor. So, as far as like his stand-up, I think it should be more of a progressive scale. I think if you look at his early on fights, he was much more, I don't want to call it gun shy, but he just wanted to stay with his base. And I would say, if he was at a 4 or 5 when he came in, I think he's put it up to an 8, 8.5 now. Obviously, he's not a Muay Thai guy. He's not, it's just not his game. He's not built for that. In order to be at a 10, you have to be built like someone like Nicky Holskin or something. Those guys are 10s. So I would say that, and it's not just a skill set. It's just that mentality of bite down on the mouthpiece and throw leather. Because with MMA it's different because your striking sets up your takedowns, your takedown sets up your striking, and I think that he utilizes the striking into the clinch game really well. So beyond just the kicks and punches, I think it's his MMA striking is where it's at the highest. 8s and 9s versus your traditional like kickboxing type stuff. Well, yeah, obviously Angla is one of the most, competitive and also one of the most dominant athletes one has ever seen. Two weight class champion. I would love to be a fly on the wall for those conversations. At the same time, though, I've got a great team around me as well. So regardless of who he trains with, it's still Agilan in the cage. I'm not fighting Angla. I'm not. Who you train with doesn't really matter because in the end, like it's Agilan in the cage and he's got 2 arms and 2 legs and he's there to breathe. So, that's what I'm focusing on. I don't care, if he's training with, Renzo Gracie, like it doesn't matter to me because it's still Agilan in the cage. He has to be the one to take my punches and kicks and my, and weather my storm. So it's not Anglo in there. No, so I'm a little different when it comes to that. I don't watch film. That's my coach's job. Because the thing with watching film is that if you want to know what they do well, then you watch a fighter's wins, and they become like this great, you're fighting Mike Tyson or something. And then if you want to know what their weaknesses are, you watch a lot of their losses, and then it becomes like, oh, they're not that big of a threat. So, as far as preparing, I just focus on what I do well. I know that his ground game is very dangerous, and I know that he's not afraid just to stand and strike. But I think more importantly, it's focusing on what my weaknesses are and to mitigate those as much as possible, learning from my previous fight. So Nakashima, I did not know that man possessed a stand-up game, and I also don't think I've ever seen him smile. That guy's a machine, and I have a lot of respect for him. And the way when I was watching the fight, I had him winning that fight up until obviously he took that knee. But if you go to some of the things I've said about Abasov in the past, like that dude's a shark. Like you have to be on your game 24/7 because he is for 25 minutes that dude is looking to finish. And that just you can have the best game plan in the world, and that's what Nakashima was doing. He had a game plan and he was sticking to it and it was working. But yeah, that's that's when you're putting it out there on the line for millions of people. Like that's what can happen. However, I do think I matched up really well with both of them. I know that with that win there, that the champ's going to need a challenger. So hopefully, if things go my way here, I can get back in that discussion. Because I know if you look at MMA math, I was just putting this out there now. I beat Sapo beat the champ, and champ beat Zebaztian. Zebaztian beat me. So I'd like to see what that MMA math would come out to if I challenge for the title. Oh yeah, and I think I can beat him too. I don't mean that in like an arrogant way. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Matter of fact, I messaged him, told him congratulations, and I hope I earned the right to share the cage with him because he is the champ, and he deserves and has earned that respect. But it's also my job to try to take it from him. From watching that fight and watching, what he likes to do, I think that we match up really well. It's going to be horsepower versus horsepower. He's a shark, looking for the finish, but so am I. And to beat somebody like Agilan, to get myself back in that contention, because if you look at that last title fight, I'm 25 seconds away from potentially having the title around my waist. So it's not like I got knocked out in the first round or whatever. So I just missed that title. So the fact that I missed it by 25 seconds, I don't think I'm that far from the discussion. I think it'll come from the ground because both of us, if you look at a lot of our wins, they do come from the ground. Not necessarily because we're shooting or anything like that. It's just that we both like to crash forward, and the clinch is going to happen. And I think it'll be from cage time, and then on like a finish on the ground, whether they come from strikes or a submission. It doesn't really matter to me. So, but in the end, fans like knockouts too. So like everything I throw is with that intent. So we'll see what happens. So I'm living in Arizona now. That's a big desert, if you will, with a lot of mountains around there. So my family and we actually got an off-roading vehicle. So we spent a lot of time just driving around in the desert. Because obviously with COVID, lockdowns and you can't really do anything. But if we go outside down in the middle of nature where there's nobody around, then we're safe from COVID. And then it's a little 4-seater, 800cc, just driving around and camping, things like that. So that's a big thing. As being a survival instructor in the Air Force, I enjoy the outdoors. So that's what I like to do with my family. So you'll see on my shorts and my banner, one of the organization, not really, it's various organizations, but one of the things that I like to give awareness to is children on the autism spectrum. So before I joined the military, I was a teacher serving kids that were autistic on that spectrum. And I started doing it. I got a gift from a family for a shirt to wear to a fight, and then I kept wearing it. And then every single fight, I'd have a mother, father, sister, aunt, brother tell me about how the shirt meant a lot to them. That they're raising awareness for children on the autism spectrum. It was really cool when I fought Sapo in Malaysia. I had people from Malaysia, messaging me, thinking it was awesome that we were raising that awareness. So that's all I'm trying to do with that, is just get the conversation going. It's a misunderstood neurological condition, but just like any other kid, they just want to be loved and understood. So and I think that's all I'm trying to do, with that, raising that awareness. Actually, we flew out on Thanksgiving. Flew out 8 a.m. My family dropped me off. But with today's, technology, I was able to FaceTime the family, and being in the military, my family understands that I'm gone a lot. This obviously adds to it. But they understand what my mission is. I'm here on a business trip. I'm here to position myself to win a title in one of the world's premier MMA organizations, and they're behind me 100%. So, I'm going to take care of business this week, and then we'll get our celebrations in when I get back.